Rojak, Kimchi, and Soon Juan leh.
Korean technology like Samsung, LG, Hyundai have dominated international markets. Korean cuisine is also in demand. K-barbecue restaurants are all over Singapore. There's also K-drama on Netflix that's all the rage with the young and old. And why is this important, you ask? There's a lesson in all of this for us in Singapore, and it's an important one. In much of the 1980s and 90s, South Korea was far from what it is today. I remember watching news reports of almost daily clashes between students and workers against the government, which at that time were army-run dictatorships. Korean citizens were fighting for democracy and political freedom in their country.
This stupid fellow, how can you compare South Korea and Singapore? Okay, let's take a look. Okay, whether this fellow is, this fellow is hit my feelings. How can you compare a country? Singapore is a small dot and this one is a big dot. Okay, but anyway, we take a look. Okay, this is South Korea, Singapore. Okay, let's start. Now, first of all, you see the area, regional area is, look at South Korea is 100,000 kilometers there. Singapore not even 1,000. How can you compare? Okay, now population. Look, South Korea got 51 million there. Singapore only 5 million. 10 times more than Singapore. This fellow, really, look at the birth. You see, quality of life. This one nothing to do with it. Okay, but the other thing I will show is the domestic thing. This is key. This is important. Look at this domestic. It's 1 trillion there. 1.6 trillion there. Singapore is 82 billion. Why can you compare? Stupid. You cannot compare. Okay, you cannot compare durian and watermelon. Watermelon. This one is special rate. Watermelon. Kimchi. Ours is Rojak and kimchi.
South Korean is a homogeneous nation. South Korea has long been regarded as a homogeneous country. Since elementary school, South Koreans are taught that they are all of the same ancestry. Homogeneous societies are easier to govern. In a homogeneous societal culture like South Korea, the underlying values and beliefs are shared and pervasive. Thus, a dominant set of cultural beliefs exist. In a more heterogeneous societal culture like Singapore, many different values and beliefs are held by diverse population groups. This situation is characterized by a multicultural society.
Towards the later part of the 90s, I met a Korean opposition leader by the name of Kim Dae-jung. Kim was persecuted and arrested several times for his opposition to the military rulers. Now, during some of my meetings with him, Kim said that democracy was not just important in and of itself, but it was also important for meaningful and quality economic growth that benefited the Korean people. I shared that view and expressed the same for Singapore.
Kim Dae-jung was Chee Soon Juan's mentor.
What does it mean when someone says window dressing? The act or an instance of making something appear deceptively attractive or favorable or attractive impression.
He's you know what, he's window dressing to present his case. But I think his case got no water one. Don't feel water one, empty one, all empty vessel one. See wait
In 1998, when the military grip on the country began to ease, Kim Dae-jung stood in the presidential elections and won.
Of all people, Kim Dae-jung should have known he was not a monarch. He will always be remembered for risking his life for Korean democracy. He was, without question, one of the 20th century's great dissidents. Unfortunately, he also ended up as one of its most disappointing leaders. South Korea, a welfare state. During his presidency, he introduced South Korea's contemporary welfare state, successfully shepherded the country's economic recovery, brought in a new era of competitive and transparent economy, and fostered a greater role for South Korea in the world stage.
After he was elected, President Kim invited me and a few other Asian Democrats to the Blue House, Korea's presidential residence. Now, during our meeting, I asked him if he was still going to press on with his plans to democratize Korea.
Democracy. South Korea is not democracy. We talk about democracy.
don't understand democracy. Imagine if democracy was like a plane, but in this plane you get to choose the captain and you have two candidates. The first one says, let me fly the plane and I'll follow all the rules of the sky. The second one says, let me fly the plane and I'll give you a seat in business class for free. Guess who is going to win the vote? It's number two, the one who doesn't know how to fly, but the one who promised you a free business class. This is how we all crash. Most humans vote using their feelings and not their brains. And that is democracy's danger. Being a politician is very complicated, just like being a pilot. It is a serious job that you cannot just wing it. So let us fix democracy before we all crash. That's 1 minute.
Democracy is a form of government based upon the principle of majority rule. Period. End of discussion. Now that's not very complicated. Majority rule. It's easy to understand, easy to sell to the masses, and I might add, deadly. For example, what would you call a lynch mob? That's majority rule. There's only one dissenting vote, and he's at the end of the rope. Now that's pure democracy in action. But wait a minute, you say. The majority should rule, yes, but not to the extent of destroying the rights of the minority. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are no longer describing a democracy. We are speaking of a republic. A republic is a limited democracy. It's a form of government based upon the principle of limited majority rule. Limited so that the minority, even a minority of one, can be protected against the whims and passions of the majority. And how do you protect the minority from the majority? You write down a set of rules on a piece of paper. You say, this we can do, that we cannot. At the top of the paper, you write the word Constitution. And then everyone agrees to follow the rules no matter what the temptation. And when you're finished, you've created a constitutional republic.
He assured us that it was still his administration's priority to bring the full impact of democracy to his country. In his inaugural address, he said, participatory democracy must be put into practice. The people must be treated as masters. I will pay any price to realize politics by the people and politics in which the
Soon Juan will say, I will pay any price to realize politics by the people for me leh. Capital M-E leh. This selfish fella.
people are the masters. By the way, Kim was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 2000. And so began the messy process of democratization of Korea, and together with it, the K-wave that brought pride and prosperity to the Korean people and exported Korean might to the rest of the world. How does liberalization of Korea have anything to do with K?
Unfortunately, Kim Dae-jung ended up as one of its most disappointing leaders. Chee Soon Juan mentor Kim Dae-jung argued his dealings with the DPRK were beneficial for Koreans in the long run. But if historians treat him poorly, which they will, it will be because he compromised his own democracy. There was absolutely no justification for undermining the rule of law, the heart of any democracy, and he had no good answer for what he did. When he ran out of denials and excuses, he fell back on the rationale for divine right rule when he said his acts, although illegal, were nonetheless okay because he committed them. Of all people, Kim Dae-jung should have known he was not a monarch. He will always be remembered for risking his life for Korean democracy. He was, without question, one of the 20th century's great dissidents. Unfortunately, he also ended up as one of its most disappointing leaders.
Hello friends, we come to the end already. Have you subscribed yet? Yes, press the subscribe button and the like button and the share button. Thank you and have a nice day.